So I am very much from the drugs are bad generation. You know, this sort of motto that goes around: drugs are bad. Do not do drugs. Don't do drugs, and don't. It's like don't do drugs as well. Like it's like don't take drugs. Like well, okay, what drugs should I not take then? Like not aspirin and I don't know, like antibiotics if I need them, or like morphine if I happen to need surgery or whatever. I shouldn't take drugs then. I shouldn't be given drugs ever. And drugs help no one, of course. And like, it's not like countless, possibly billions of lives have been saved at this point due to the innovations of medicine and pharmacology. It's like it's not. Uh, and then we've got like what they really mean is illegal drugs. Like, well, what drugs are not controlled to some extent? Even the sale of ibuprofen in supermarkets. We go and buy like 5 packs of it, they probably wouldn't let you buy it. It's probably like against some sort of law. But it's tough to do. What they really mean is like the old-fashioned drugs, let's say, that we used to use for millennia. Cannabis, for example, we've been using that since the time of the ancient Greeks in various preparations for the treatment of pain. It has a deep cultural affinity, particularly in the form of hashish, with the Middle Eastern nations, the Islamic world, let's say, in North Africa. Yeah, but it predates Islam by thousands and thousands of years, I would have suspected. India, of course, still legal in India, many states anyway. It should be unilaterally legal, but they're also legal for cultural reasons. It has a deep affinity with Hindu society, and it has a deep connection with Hindu society. It's legal in Bhutan also. There's no point making it illegal in Bhutan because it grows on the side of mountains and cows eat it. I'd love to go milk some Bhutanese cows and drink the cow's milk and see if it gets me high. It would be like you got a Bhutanese cow and it's just like you pull the other and it's just straight bang lassie, straight out the cow. Probably not. No, it's probably a negligible amount of THC in it. But it's just an interesting thought to think about, I think. And in my sort of farming exploits, I have toyed with the idea of trying to cultivate cannabis on a scale whereby I can feed it to cattle. Because I heard from this Dutch study that feeding cows cannabis can have up to 8 lactations, whereas typically they have 6 lactations, which is a little unfortunate on poor cows, I think. Just to quickly digress into dairy farming, I think really what we ought to be doing with cows is rather than milking them quite the way we do, I think we should do 1 year on, 1 year off. Really, I try to make that an industry standard. Give them a break for a year, and put them back on next year or something. I'm gonna be a little bit kinder to cows because fuck me, they work hard, poor girls. Or do we have to milk them every day? Are they really going to get mastitis if we don't milk them for a day? I don't know. Anyway, back to drugs. Drugs are vital in society, of course. They're extraordinarily lucrative, and we have a dark and dirty secret at the heart of our history in the West here, and particularly in the history of the 20th century. This dark, dirty secret is called the International Opium Convention. It was convened in 1906 by a conglomerate of world powers to control the supplies of morphine, heroin and cocaine in the first instance. Because in fairness to it, you could probably be doing a little bit better than selling cocaine as a nasal decongestant and making it a little bit harder to get, but outright banning it, I think was a bit of a misstep. And we should be careful who we give cocaine to, I think also, and we need some way of controlling how much cocaine people are allowed to have. But a ban on cocaine, just it will never work. That's the major issue with it. You will never be able to stop the supply of cocaine. It just wouldn't work. It's, North Korea, maybe there's no cocaine in North Korea, possibly. You know, like, I'd invoke ruthless tactics and become a deeply authoritarian society in order to quell the supposed demonic force of cocaine. I've taken cocaine on several occasions. I've never been an addict to cocaine. No, while I'm on it, yes. Yes, you are addicted to it on it, obviously. It's very Moorish, as it happens. Yeah, but I always managed to kick the addiction to cocaine. I think the people who don't manage to kick the addiction to cocaine are non-smokers, because they don't have a stronger addiction. And this has sort of like been demonstrated a bit with the methadone and heroin paradigm, that we put them on a more addictive compound so that they get off heroin, you know, and eventually get off methadone. So smoking is, I think, quite a good way of inoculating oneself against addiction or stronger addictions, such as the cocaine addiction. So I wouldn't have sold cocaine to a non-smoker, no. And if you choose to be a non-smoker, of course, that's perfectly fine. You know, it's want to live a reasonable and healthy life. You know, it's cool, it's fine. But weed absolutely must be legal, because it was eventually thrown into the International Opium Convention under the moniker Indian hemp, which is what it used to be known as. Marijuana is not cannabis. It's a type of Mexican wild tobacco. Yeah. Cannabis is, I think, the real travesty in drug policy. I mean, like, people being put in prison for dealing cannabis is absurd. It's awful. It's dreadful. And yeah, well, I mean, as part of this, I used to live in the Netherlands for a year. I went to university there. I went to University College Utrecht, part of Utrecht University, and I was really excited to go there, though, obviously, because I wanted to smoke weed all the time, and we were smoking weed all the time. We took shrooms, took ecstasy, you know, we do all these things at university, because that's what people do, and we drink quite a lot as well, a reasonable amount. But drinking culture in the Netherlands is unbelievably civilised. It really is. Like, the beers you get there, lovely and tasty, stronger, interesting, stronger beer. It makes you want less of it. That might be part of it, you know. Like, the kick you get from like a 7 or 8% quack or whatever it is, probably not pronouncing that correctly, is yeah, it's rather potent. You can't drink too much of it. It makes much more sense. But and English drinking culture is just revolting, I'm sorry to say. You know, like, they pile into bar and pubs and clubs and like get slaughtered on alcohol, and by the way, take drugs in addition to that. And it is crazy. And you know, my feeling that I majorly got when I was in the Netherlands, it was I stepped into this country, this fantastic little country, and I think that I'm embarrassed. And I walk around Utrecht, or cycle around Utrecht, for goodness sake, and it's quiet, it's peaceful. Amsterdam's just like a little lively, not like Britain. Like walk through the centre of Bristol, cars everywhere, go and like, here we go again. Good God, unbelievable. I was just like, the place is like, I am proud of my country to some extent. I mean, there's a lot of debatable things with, I mean, science and engineering and mathematics and this sort of thing, philosophy and literature as well, and you know, things like, yes, I only imbibed in English and all this sort of stuff. But then, I mean, there's a Dutch Republic, and they managed, I think, to keep Catholicism while having burgeoning Protestant churches, and They produce like the likes of Desiderius Erasmus and we sheltered Spinoza. The Enlightenment was a throbbing, thumping thing in the Netherlands as well. Everywhere as well. It's like Catholicism didn't stop France producing Voltaire, did it? I don't know really, but Henry VIII was a ruthless campaign of, disassembling of administrative bodies and the appropriation of lands and property, and leading to the creation of the world's most powerful navy, and eventually our conquest, or attempted conquest of the planet, which we got considerably far with, and we established the British Empire, and started dealing huge amounts of drugs. The British Empire, and it's foul the way we talk about it in Britain. Like, the railroads in India, yeah, the railroads set up to exploit poor Indians in the countryside and ferry their produce to the coast. No, for one thing, furthermore, is like the Opium War is the bit we don't talk about. Where in 1 year we sold equivalent of $190 billion worth of opium to mainland China. And eventually, obviously, the Chinese economy undercut our imports by their domestication of the production of opium there. And then it all ended under Chairman Mao, and no more opium in China. Which is a bit of a shame, really, because they complain about the opium dens and so on, but the alternative not a bit worse, a bit crueler and more brutal. Now we have a few opium-toting reprobates. And we had them in London as well, had the opium dens there, and just got to put up with them, whatever. They're an opium person. I was like, all right. No, I take cannabis like everyone else. Just pop a bit of hashish in me. The major thing that could come about in Britain, at least, with the legalisation of cannabis, would be it would do something about our fucking drinking culture. I'm pretty certain, and we could do a lot worse, I think, than start. We've got the tradition of real ale here. I don't want to attack that particularly, but cannabis, you don't really ever get slaughtered when you're stoned. I think people need to be stoned more often. As if anything, or cannabis and driving. I'd make it mandatory for driving. I'd say it's illegal to drive when you're not stoned. I'm pretty certain. These ridiculous arguments we come up with, it leads to psychosis, and alcohol leads to psychosis. When trying to come off alcohol, cold turkey, you will start hallucinating, seeing, having visions and so on. And then, say one person's psychosis, and via, madness and civilization, all this Foucault stuff, it's, another person's shamanism and religious practice to take the cognitive sphere to different levels. And I haven't even touched on magic mushrooms yet, and one of the most disgusting things that Tony Blair did, apart from everything else that he fucked up, not in time at least, for one thing, good God. And the wounds of that, the world is steeped in that now, still, and to make it right, and he banned magic mushrooms, fresh magic mushrooms. It's getting out of hand. Well, legalised dried mushrooms then. You fool. Sold by responsible pharmacists, if need be. Because why do that? It's such a beneficial compound, the psilocybin, opening the inner corridor and allowing us to see into ourselves, to improve ourselves, become peaceful people and better people, expand the mind. undermines them to learn, basically, to experience new things, to have often deeply joyous and profound and connecting experiences on psilocybin. I'm not so certain about LSD. I don't like the idea of it. I've never taken it, but I'm not so certain I will either. I don't like the idea of flashbacks. That troubles me a little bit. But MDMA, I've said that's perfectly fine, as long as you don't do it more than once every 3 months, I've said, if you're an MDMA person. Which I am. I love MDMA. Loving, beautiful experience. Connect deeply with other people and have a great time. Cannabis is absolutely harmless. It should be available to anyone over 18. In whatever strength, and there is no such thing as skunk. It's stupid. What there is, however, in Britain, after Gordon Brown's execrable decision to raise cannabis from a Class C to a Class B drug, suddenly had this explosion of synthetic cannabis. And that is what people actually meant when they say skunk. Skunk just used to mean strong weed. And it got changed to cheese. It smells like strong cheese. It doesn't actually smell like cheese, but there's a parsimony there between the way it smells and the dirty secret, I'm afraid to say, is that World War I was fought over drug money. Because of the Treaty of Versailles, Germany was forced to accede to the International Opium Convention and turn over trademarks for heroin, morphine and cocaine to the United States, France and Great Britain, which were worth goodness only knows how much money. I think all the legal heroin sold was acetylmorphine in hospitals. Codeine as well. Well, that wasn't. I don't know possibly enough about the legislation itself, but I just know because that was in the Treaty of Versailles to do with the drugs. Campaign now is totally to control the poppy fields, obviously. Shameful. Utterly shameful. In the 19th century, it's the bloodiest. During the Napoleonic Wars, about 7 million people were killed over 20 years. First half of the 20th century, 120 million people were killed. Boys, basically, with guns put in their hands and marched into the filth of the trenches and to be gassed and shot by machine guns. We cannot repeat something like that. And what I see in the world now is just it developing into something far worse. I sound a bit like Elon Musk then. On a side note, Elon Musk, while he's high, is one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen in the world. It's he just switches on his autism full blast. No. We can't keep doing this. This is ridiculous. And the war on drugs, that oily that oil and his slug acolyte Henry Kissinger, Richard Nixon, the abominable war criminal, a man who I might well have, had I been alive at the same time, advocated putting in a sack full of poisonous snakes like they do in ancient Rome. And had him go that way. Kissinger, same thing, I think. Right. I had him crucified alive. It'd be an interesting crucifixion, wouldn't it? The tubby, bloated corpse of Henry Kissinger nailed to a bit of wood. He's Agent Orange and, of course, napalm. Lovely. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Marching the psychopaths into Vietnam and let them lead yet more conscripted boys with machine guns. And the whole process reiterates itself and continues forever. Then there's the control of Afghanistan and its poppy fields. Blah, blah, blah. War criminal. David Cameron, of course, a smacked-arse little up-jump public school runt from Eton, who sold cannabis at Eton and then legalised cannabis for him and his mates in the Tory party after the 2010 election. What a disgusting piece of dirt he is. And George Osborne, and like, what are they? Crabbe and Goyle, and what's Boris Malfoy, of course. The interesting thing is probably Malfoy, Crabbe and Goyle were probably based on those people, characters. Like, this just needs to end. Who is Voldemort? Vladimir Putin, of course. It sounds a bit like Voldemort, Vladimir. Voldemort. We have Ukraine and the fearless Volodymyr Zelensky leading his brave people to a position of strident dominance and conviction in their own democratic state. I have a Ukrainian flag beautifully hanging in my window. I love those colours, I always have. Blue, yellow, lovely. Conservatism and liberalism in balance, possibly, I don't know. I always used to have, when I was working on a farm, like, I always used to wear New Holland overalls, a bit flashy, like yellow bit on the top and blue mostly, like lovely little like reflective strip on them also, really cool overalls. I do like John Deere overalls as well. So. And plain blue dickies. Not so taking the red overalls. No offense to anyone who's into that, but yeah, it's just my opinion. So we must legalise drugs. I was one point tempted to say just legalise all drugs, but yeah, it should be sold by responsible pharmacists. If you want to get hold of heroin, you should be able to get hold of it. You know, if you want to try it out, like you know, up to the discretion of a responsible person selling it. You know, that's all we need. That is really all we need. Things like cannabis and so on, kind of Dutch system, coffee shops, I mean, it's not hard, goodness sake. The Dutch have proven like that those people, like, they are the most sensible people I've ever met in my life. And they're just sitting there across the channel and they're like, oh. And Spain's like decriminalised and good systems. Portugal also decriminalised and transformed their country. And Boris Johnson, like, doing his Churchill impression, I was like, God. But Churchill, like, didn't like he beat Halifax to the Premiership because Halifax was a dentist or something, and yeah, like and we needed like the likes of Churchill for the war. What was Churchill? He was a drunk. Like, Boris, you want to be like Churchill? You drink like Churchill. You know, you're on the champers by midday, old boy. Like, and a cigar, you know. Like, you know, and there's actually a man who's in the United States been responsible for, I suspect personally, advancing the cause of drug legalization and in North America, generally speaking. And he's the Sulla of drug legalization, and it is Joe Rogan and his podcast, his wonderful podcast. You know, I've got like some sort of weird psychic connection to Elon Musk. I'd love to talk to all these people. I really would. I would just sit down, have a conversation over ciggies and booze and weed. But sensible Dutch booze. Fucking Netherlands, oh god, it's just over there, we can go anytime I like. Why don't I stay here? I don't know, like, it is my country. You know, you stick with your people, don't you? I remember like a sweet time in my life when I was about 15. I just started smoking weed, you know, with my friends, getting out like, and we're like doing ridiculous things like buying a huge big like cone thing. I did that off the internet, and we packed the shit out of that and smoked it. like And we did edibles. Oh, we didn't really do that, did we? So much. I don't think we did actually. We should have tried it out because it's way more hallucinogenic. It's just interesting to try it. That's all. And you know, who does it? Like, yeah, it's for bohemians and artists, and you know, always has been. And it's really for everyone, of course. But you know, you got like the Paris Circle of the Hashashins and you know, Dumas and all those people, you know, Dali and the various. But Dali said the wrong thing about hashish. Like, you should always eat hashish, but only once. Oh no, he didn't actually, did he? Always eat hashish. You imagine what Dali would like to talk to, like it was batshit. Loads of great people are, you know, and like this big mental health stigma attached to drugs, like, oh, it makes it crazy. Like, well, like crazy people never done anything good. Never been cool, fun, crazy people. Stephen Fry's one. He's crazy. He's bipolar. He's wonderful. He's a beautiful fellow. A gorgeous soul, you know. Wonderful. Kind. He was just doing the wrong drug, I think. He was doing cocaine. It's tricky. Because cocaine, like, is a shit drug. That is the thing about it. Well, actually, no, I've had very high quality cocaine, actually, once. I believe it was like what's known as Merc cocaine, like rock star cocaine. It's like, it does clears your nose, and it is a different high. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Like, you know what? Not really addictive either. Interesting. I wonder to what extent, because diacetyl morphine in hospitals, like, it wouldn't get you high, it'd just knock you out, wouldn't it? Like pure heroin, like, it's not addictive, it doesn't have impurities in it. This is it, isn't it? Because like street smack, you know, it's addictive because it's got complex opioids that break down very slowly in your system and poison your body. It's the impurities in it that these bundles of opiate within the compound that fail to break down and assimilate with the body in quite the same way. Merc cocaine is not addictive. I didn't have the slightest desire for any more after one line. And went to a party. Like, next day I was like, do I want more cocaine? No, I think I'm satisfied. You need a real deal. And you know, those is Merc still going? Bay is still going, but I mean, Merc. I don't know. We must do drugs properly. We must do drugs sensibly, and they must be legal, most of them. I think. But not scopolamine at all, ever. That's terrifying. That's the imperious curse. Anything that would kill you instantly, you should never do, obviously. That's the killing curse. Anything that causes pain, of course, must be banned, such as antipsychotics. Because in people with obsessive compulsive disorder, such as myself, they inflict yet more pain on you. And that pain lasts for a while after you stop taking it. I was given one that was this revolting compound called anisolpride. It gave me anorgasmia, which persisted up until now. I might never get like the same orgasms back that I used to have.